Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Swerve with me. This is a show where we have adult conversations. We talk to people who have overcome challenges and they're not afraid to show their scars and to speak their truth. Happy Resurrection Sunday, everybody. For those of you who follow the Christian faith, this is a very, very important day in the life of Christendom where we celebrate the resurrection of Jesus. And I don't know about you, but I am so glad that he did not stay in that tomb. I'm glad that he got up so that we could be free, so that we could have salvation, so that we could have hope. And so I thank God for the sacrifice that Jesus made for all of us. And that's what's so cool about it. It wasn't just for one person, it wasn't just for them back then, but it is for us today. And anybody who decides that I want to follow the principles of Jesus and I want to accept him as my Lord and Savior, so happy Resurrection Day to everybody. As you come in, you know how we do it. Go ahead and tag somebody. I'll let them know that we're on. Good night, sunshine. Good to see you. Good to see you. Go ahead, tag somebody. Let them know that we're back on tonight because this particular show tonight, each week I talk to men and women who have a story to tell. They have something to say, and that's why we created this platform for people who have something to say and they're not afraid to talk about what they've been through, what they've learned as a result of what they've gone through, and what they're doing to help others to overcome and go through their own specific challenges. And so tonight I dubbed this show a journey of self-discovery, self-acceptance, self-awareness, self-esteem, self everything, because it's her story is just so powerful. And we're gonna get into that. So yeah, tag somebody, let them know that we're on, because tonight I'm talking to Shavonne Strachan, who is a young lady who has been through the process. She has made her mark. She is a philanthropist. She's a giver. She has a big heart. She is what else? An IT tech. What else? There's so much, and you'll learn so much more about her. So make sure you let somebody know that we're talking to Siobhan tonight. And so I'm gonna bring her in right now and say good night, Siobhan.
Good night. Hello,
How
everyone.
are you?
I am
How
good.
are you? Listen, the smile is banging, okay? Beautiful smile. We'll talk about that tonight too. We have so much to talk about. But first of all, I
Uh,
just want to say
yeah.
thank you. Thank you so much for being a part of the show tonight, because I'm always excited when I get the opportunity to talk to people like you who open up themselves. Not
Yeah.
because it's comfortable, but because you come to a place in your life where you know it's necessary. And
Mm,
it's necessary not only to help other people, but it's necessary to help you grow and to
yeah.
continue on the journey that you're on. So let's start at the beginning and let's talk about Siobhan Strawn. Who are you? Where do you come from? Like they say, where your navel string buried. Tell us, who is Siobhan Strawn?
Uh, this question always gets me, but to take it from the beginning, I like to say that I grew up with a single parent mother of five, female, in Freeport, Grand Bahama. Um, we were less fortunate. I was the middle child, and I think I carried on that typical, middle child syndrome. So I was definitely the rebellious one. I was the one who, I experienced a lot of bullying during my younger years. Um, Definitely different, kind of out of the box. Looking back at it now, I could say that I was never someone that did things, the by the by the book. I kind of always did things the way that I wanted to do it. I was always a spiritual person. I always believed in God. I always talked to God. And throughout the years, throughout my journey, I would say that I came from being a rejected, broken, rebellious individual to being a very ambitious, strong, motivated individual.
Okay,
I,
so that's
yeah,
beautiful. Let's go back because we have so much to talk about. So I want to roll it right back to you mentioned in childhood being
Mhm.
bullied. Um, we've heard about the middle child syndrome, and there are so many different theories about that, and
Yeah.
whether it's really true or not,
Yeah.
or but
Yeah.
let's talk about being bullied, because something happened to you at a very young age that really kind of changed or formed the trajectory of your life and
Mhm.
set you on a path where you really struggled with who you were. So let's talk about the bullying and what happened.
Yeah, so from like grade 3, I had an accident where I lost I fell and I lost the two front teeth in my mouth. And from then on, it was we weren't fortunate enough for my mother to get it fixed. So I went from grade 3 straight up to grade 12 with not having teeth in the front of my mouth. And so
Like
it really
literally two teeth
yeah.
missing. Literally.
Hmm.
Okay. So let's take that, because at in third grade, this
Hmm.
happening to you, and then you having to show back to school. What was it like day to day? What were kids saying to you?
Um, like I could remember specifically like people calling me like, like they can, we're kids, so it's like open gate. Some guys told me like I remember specifically guys that he could fly a plane straight through my mouth, like my teeth, how wide
Hmm.
the gap was. I remember guys pretending to be interested in me, and the moment I opened my mouth and talk, everybody like started laughing at me and stuff like that. So it really messed with my confidence. So I learned to kind of hide my teeth with my top lip as I spoke. And even now, I still do it. And somebody
Hmm.
brought it to my attention recently that I I still do it, even though I fixed it. It's something
So
that I
let's talk more about how did that really impact you day to day? Because if these your two teeth are missing, there's absolutely nothing you could do about it but live with it. So
Mhm.
how did that constant taunting really impact you? And I mean, like, give me an example.
So an example is it really messed with my confidence. For example, like when those group of guys laughed at me in my face, I learned to kind of never give eye contact. I learned to keep my top lip to hide my teeth. So I would talk like this almost. I
Hmm.
learned to look down when I speak to people. So it really messed with my confidence. And even to this day, I struggle with giving eye contact. So throughout this interview, you may probably see me going like this or looking to the side, but I'm not looking at anyone. But it's just something that I practice to just help me to deal with, being bullied or just kind of hiding that insecurity. So
Hmm.
even throughout my adult years, it's something that I practice. It's something that was like a hidden insecurity, something like an embarrassment to me. And I shared recently on my Facebook, like up until last year, it's something that I dealt with my teeth just giving me issues with it not being something that was long term, just like short term fixes. So I'd always have to deal with feeling like my teeth was shaky or, it threatening to drop out and stuff like that. So I just learned to deal with it and hide it.
Since you already gone jump to the subject of that so much, so recently you just had you got your teeth done
Yeah.
and everything. They look beautiful, and so many questions have been coming, like how
Yeah.
did you get it done and all that stuff. But I don't want to really talk about
Yeah.
how did you get it done or where, but I want to talk about how do you feel, like what's the difference do you feel now with getting that done, and how has that boosted your confidence or self-esteem, or has it done anything?
Well, it definitely boosted my self esteem because from third grade straight up until the age I am now, I dealt with hiding this secret, like this insecurity. So a lot of people, they always viewed me. Some people tell me like they never even noticed it because I became so good at hiding it.
Mhm.
But in my alone time or my secret time, it's something that I struggle with privately. So now I'm still adjusting to it. It's like freedom. It's like I released it. I let it out. I shared it with the public. I'm able to smile fully. I'm able to be myself. So it's like a inward thing. It's like being bound by something your entire life and finally having the opportunity, whether people notice it or not, whether they know it or not, it's like for me personally, finally having that opportunity to just be
Hmm.
free. It feels
Yeah.
good.
So
I
do you
felt,
find yourself like walking past a mirror now and just like flashing a smile
yeah,
to yourself?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I do. Before I go to sleep at night, I would literally like turn on my phone camera and I'm like this, like I'm just looking at it and shoots. Like I
I
get
understand.
emotional, like just oh my god.
Yeah. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I get
It's okay.
emotional talking about it because it's something that like really had me bound for so long. So it feels really good.
Hmm. Okay, that's beautiful. I wanted to talk about it because hey, they look beautiful. They do look beautiful.
Oh my
So
god.
let's go back into your childhood. Outside of the bullying, what on you being losing confidence? How else did that impact you? Because you mentioned that you were a rebellious child. Like, why were you rebellious? Why?
Well, thinking back to it, I always thought that I was just rebellious. But when I really think back to it, I think everything stemmed from my teeth and the bullying and stuff like that. So when I was able to get like temporary fixes and I came into myself and I began to mature and, develop, assets, I started feeling myself. And, it felt
Mhm.
good to get that attention. It felt good to kind of like, I guess, get like that payback almost to guys that bullied me, that didn't see me as beautiful and things like that. So I embraced it maybe too much.
So how old would you say you were when guys started to notice you?
Um, like 17, 18, I would say.
Okay.
So it was like, for me, it was like a high.
Hmm.
I always wanted to know what it felt like to be the beautiful girl, to be the popular girl, to be the desired girl, not always being the one that's, picked on or looked down upon. So I think I embraced it a little bit too much, or I let it get to my head a bit too much. I got into like modeling and pageantry and really got full of myself, I would say.
Hmm.
I became a little bit promiscuous, I would say, as well. And it was like enjoyable to kind of
To
be
be
that girl.
wanted, to be noted.
Yeah, to be wanted. And at that young age, I didn't really understand like how to deal with it. So I
Hmm.
think I dealt with it in the wrong ways by, hurting people or just, living life, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is at 17, so you would have graduated from high school by
Mhm.
then
Yeah.
and kind of feeling yourself on
Yeah.
your own.
For sure.
Yeah, like I can do what I want to do now, that kind
Yeah.
of thing. Even though
Yeah.
you're still living at home, right?
Yeah. I was still living with my mom, and my mom was very strict, being a single parent of five girls, so we never really got to like go out and like sleepovers and things like that. So when I got into that age where I could be rebellious or just do what I wanted to do, I did that.
Hmm.
My
Now,
mom still tells me to this day I was her most like troublesome child, I guess.
yeah. So, so when I first met you, you were so even in your rebelliousness or whatever, you were still ambitious
Yes.
because I
So,
believe I met you when you were like 18 or 19,
mhm.
and at the time you were the
Yeah.
president of a Toastmasters club.
Yeah.
So how did that happen?
So it was always like this tug of war for me because I grew up in church. We had a group of Christians who came out to our neighborhood. We grew up in the inner cities. And so we had a group of Christians who would come out and have church in our community and things like that. And they kind of like took us on as their own. And we really grew a relationship with them. And so through that, I always kind of had like God with me, or like this tug of war of wanting to be, a Christian and just godly. But at the same time, I had this wanting to be rebellious and wanting to be free. So I would say like from 18 up until like 25, 26, I was always like this, like kind of one foot in the church, one foot out the church kind of thing.
Mhm.
And so a part of me, I knew I always wanted to be better than my environment. But at the same time, the environment kind of shaped me into being like, I want to be a party girl. I want to be free. I want to be sexy. I want to be pretty.
Mm-hmm.
But then at the same time, it was this thing in the back of my mind, having God and church being a part of my life as well. It was like, I want that too. So I kind of always flip flops.
Mm-hmm. So,
Yeah.
what made you join Toastmasters?
So what made me join Toastmasters is I wanted to rebuild my confidence. After I got my teeth issues sorted out, I wanted to learn how to be confident, learn how to speak in front of a crowd, and all these sorts of things, because I did a little bit of it when I was in high school, but I couldn't really get to my full potential because this would be an issue.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't be as confident or as aggressive as I could be because of it. So I joined Toastmasters to kind of help me like break out of that insecurity and just to kind of rebuild my confidence. And then it became something I loved.
Mm-hmm.
I remember saying I wanted to be like a politician.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I was I was in youth in parliament, and I was actually the speaker of the house and everything
Okay.
with my insecurity.
Mm-hmm.
But
And you were
yeah,
able to do that, and you pulled it off.
I did. It was,
Yeah.
yeah, I think I'm still that person today, just like an overcomer. I never let anything hold me back. So even though I had those insecurities, I had the issue in my mind, I always had this drive to like, I'm gonna show you kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, so, the rebelliousness, we're talking more about that than the partying and the constant party. You told me a story that absolutely, I was like, it was mind boggling. And it had to do with marijuana, right? And,
Yeah.
and getting high. So you used to party and go out and get high,
Hmm.
but then one night something like happened that really took you over the top. So let's talk about that night.
Yeah. So not my most proudest moment, but yeah, I was into marijuana and just like heavy smoking and partying and things like that. And one night my friend made some brownies, and we were smoking too. I didn't know any
But
better.
they wasn't just brownies, they
They
were
were,
brownies
yeah,
laced
I
with, right?
didn't know. So they
Right.
were weed brownies, and I didn't know. I was just eating it and smoking, and and I overdosed on it. And that was like a real wake up call for me because I was out of my mind. I was hallucinating. I was high for like 3 days.
So wait now, don't let's jump all the way there.
Yeah.
You overdosed. Did
Mhm.
you go to the hospital?
I told them to take me to the hospital. And on my way to the hospital, I remember like I was short of breath. Like if you open up my shirt, you could see my heart kind of like beating through my chest, like how bad it was. And they called the ambulance, and the ambulance was like, it's best y'all try to bring her here because it's going to take us like 2 hours to get somebody to you.
Oh,
So when you heard that, at that moment, I'm like, I'm going to die. I was like, this is it for me. And my life's like literally started flashing before my eyes. And I thought about my mom. I was like, she's going to be so disappointed that her daughter died from an overdose. Like, it's the way I want to go out. Like, I knew I had so much potential. I had dreams, I had aspirations. And I'm like, I moved from Freeport to Nassau to Overdose to die like this. So yeah, but on the way, I had a friend of mine who kind of just calmed me down. She was like, "Shavonne, you sure you want to go in there?" And she just started like talking to me and getting me to breathe. And I, to this day, I feel like it was just God. And I'm so glad that I didn't go through that process, actually going in the hospital or, getting the police or medical involved, because I don't know, what it would have done for my record or whatever. But some type of miracle happened, and she calmed me down, and they took me back home. But even after the fact, I was still high for like 3 days.
So
And I
what
was,
was that like to be high for 3 days? And were you working? Like, did you have to go to work the next day?
yeah, I had to go to work. I had to be normal. And I just remember thinking, like, I was like, I'm crazy and I'm gonna have to just live with it. And I realized, like, I'm so strong of a person and my mind is so strong that I was just like, okay, Shavonne, you have to just like get it together. Just I can't even explain it really. But it was
Hmm.
like in my mind I knew that I didn't feel well.
So
But
that's what I want to capture to help
yeah.
somebody who's never been high before. Like, even though you were going to work, like, what was going on in your mind or your head? Was it spinning? Was like, what was happening with you?
So like while I was to work and just trying to go on day to day life, if you've never been high, it just kind of feels like a daze, like fuzzy. It was like I didn't know what was reality from what was just like an illusion in my head, basically. So sometimes I remember sitting there and I was like, I would be going to work and I would be like, did I put clothes on this morning? Like I'll be thinking about these things because I
Wow.
was sure. But I don't know. It's like I just had to trust that I put clothes on this morning. It was like I had to really focus, like, I know I did this kind of thing. But in the back of my mind, it was like this tug of war, like, did I get dressed this morning? Like, am I walking the street naked? Like, am I, it was like just these questions in my brain that I couldn't tell reality from what wasn't reality. It took a lot of focus. And to this day, I'm a firm believer in God because that is the only thing that got me through. Like I remember being in the bathroom 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and just like holding my head and just being
Hmm.
like, God, like just trying to get my brain to focus and asking God to bring me into focus because I felt so confused. I didn't know what was real from what was fake. And
So was this, you were just really in a daze? Like, did it change the way you felt, other than what was going on in your mind? How were you feeling physically?
honestly, I felt crazy. Like I felt, but it's it's so hard to explain because it's like a tug of war with myself. It was like, okay, I feel a little bit crazy, but then at the same time, I was like trying to talk to myself, like, Shavonne, you got this. Like, you stronger than this. You could overcome it. Like, just try to focus, kind of thing. But for like 3 months, it was like a fight with me talking to myself or like God talking to me. I still don't know to this day, like if it was God speaking to me or if it was just me, like just like being like, "Come on, Siobhan, you gotta, you gotta get it
So
together."
even after, so you're saying even after the 3 days when you're like really uh, in a daze and ever, it still had an impact on you.
It did.
After those 3 days of you feeling like you're in a daze,
Hmm. It did.
you
It was
still
like
were
in my
struggling
head.
with what's real and what's not.
Yeah, it was like I would hear this buzzing sound in my head. I remember like I didn't want anything to do with drinking or smoking. It was like I wanted to be sober so bad. I never wanted to be sober more than anything in my life. And
Hmm.
I felt like I couldn't tell anyone because I didn't want anyone to think that I was crazy or I was out of my mind.
I was
So I
about to
just kept
ask you, did you
myself.
ever go to a doctor at any point? Just
I did
never
go
did.
to a doctor because I couldn't sleep,
Hmm.
and they recommended Santax for me, and I took them, and it made it worse. There were side effects of it. There were still drugs in my system, and when I researched everything, the side effects and just still having drugs in my system, it made it even worse. Like I was having nightmares, just delusional, like horrible nightmares, like things, stuff that just wasn't normal, like terrifying stuff, spiritual things, I would say too, now that I think back on it. And when I Googled the effects of it, the side effects, and I prayed and things like that, I just heard like clear as day late at night, like throw these pills away. And I did that. And I was like, I'm not taking these anymore. I'm gonna just trust God to heal me. And he did. He did.
So I'm sure you was walking around saying, I'm never gonna touch any marijuana or drug or
Never,
anything again for as long as
never,
I live.
never.
So that,
Yep.
how is that particular experience changed you? And then I'm gonna move on to another part of your
Hmm.
story. But how is that being? That's literally like high out of your mind.
Hmm.
Like you're not sure what's happening, what's real, what's not. How has that changed you?
Today I'm glad that it happened. And I think back, I tell people like I have a very addictive kind of personality. And so I would say I was addicted to weed. Like I liked it like morning, noon, night, whenever I was free, I just liked to
Okay,
do it.
so stop. You said you believe you were addicted, and
Yeah.
so you were smoking. So you were working. You were like, so
Yeah.
in other words, a functioning addict.
Yeah.
So you would smoke like in the morning when you woke up before
Hmm.
you went to work.
Hmm.
Did you smoke during the day, or you would wait till you come home and smoke again?
If I wasn't working, I would do it during the day or when I come home. But in any
Mhm.
event, I just like every day for sure.
And for how
And
long? How long was this period in your life? Couple months?
no, like years.
Like years? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And
So
so let me ask you this. At the point when you like had this whole experience with the brownies and the weed, how long had you been smoking up to that point? Had it been years or you it was recent?
no, it was years.
It was years at that
Yeah.
point. But that was the first time you had ever been that high.
Yeah. Like before that, it was always just like fun, laughter. Anybody who smoked, they would understand, but it was just like cool. It was chill.
And you were in a circle of people where that was acceptable at the
Yeah.
time.
I only hang with smokers basically. So
Okay. And
yeah.
all of these were people who were working, going to work,
Hmm.
functioning,
Yeah.
addicts in essence. Okay. And so you get over that period. Um, so as a result of that, did you stop smoking? Like did you ever smoke since that particular experience?
No. So after the overdose, the Xanax, all that stuff, I was terrified of ever being that way again. Like I think for me it was just like a matter of God and just allowing it to just come out of my system completely.
Hmm.
So it took like about 3 months for me to start to feel normal again, but I did not. To this day, I'm just like, no.
Hmm.
I don't even want Like there was a time I was with someone and it was like secondhand smoke after that. But even then I was just like, I don't want to be around it. I
Hmm.
don't ever want to feel that way again. It was horrible.
So how did your friends, your circle take that? Because these are
I
people
remember
that you
some of
were
my
always with.
friends thinking like, because I didn't want to drink or anything, I just didn't want to ever feel like out of my mind. And they called me like some of my friends. I remember calling me boring and like, oh, you know, but they didn't like. At this time, I had already transitioned to like new friends, so they didn't know my
Hmm.
story as to why I didn't want to. I didn't want to share it either. So it was difficult because I still wasn't like, you know, like all the way religious and saved, but I wasn't the person I was. I was kind of like in transition,
Hmm.
so I didn't know how to like explain to people like why I didn't want to.
You didn't want to do it in social settings.
Mhm. At
Okay.
all.
At all, right.
No.
Yeah. So, as a teenager, you mentioned about being exposed to the church, being involved in church,
Mhm.
not unlike most Bahamians back then. Nowadays, it's like so different. But pretty much growing up in the church
Mhm.
and being involved in youth ministry, et cetera, et cetera. But you had a kind of negative experience
Mhm. Yeah.
um, being in the church. Let's talk about that because I think the kind of experience that you had kind of shapes and frames a lot of people's experience of the church, and it either keeps them away from church or it makes them vow that I know I don't want to be like that, and they go hard after it. So tell us a little bit about your experience.
So my experience, like my childhood, like I said, we had like very good examples, like leaders, pastors, and you know his wife. They were excellent. They were like mother, father figures that I never had, and it was good. They really helped like grow me and gave me that spiritual background. But coming into it, not everybody in church is like that.
Hmm.
So I had experiences like where I felt like, well, I experienced people in church like being promiscuous, I guess, or a little flirtatious and things like that, like things that they shouldn't have been doing.
Hmm.
I had experiences in my older years where I felt like the church was very controlling, manipulative.
Okay, so
And,
let's talk about that. Let's talk about the experience because I want you to talk about that experience with the flirtation or whatever when it just went too far.
Mhm.
Let's talk about that particular experience.
So with that, I remember it wasn't a leader in church, but it was just a particular gentleman that was a part of the church, and it was like I was still young at the time. I was probably 12, 13. I don't know. But in that making like certain advances, I knew that it just don't feel right. Or like,
Hmm.
you know, like nobody, I guess like your spirit or your intuition, like nobody has to tell you what is right from wrong. You could just kind of feel when something is wrong or something is crossing boundaries. And so that was something that I experienced at a young age. He
So
never
when you
like,
said he made advances,
mhm.
exactly what did he do? Like, did
Well,
he touch
he
you? Did he
mentioned,
just say something
well, he tried to touch
inappropriate?
me, but somebody ended up coming in the room and interrupting it. And he said, like, he wanted to take me out, like, just me and him, like, alone, kind of
A
thing.
12-year-old and a grown man.
Yeah.
That's what he was telling you. Okay.
Yeah. So even in my mind at that point, I knew that, hey, like, we always go in a group. Like, why do you want to single me out, kind of thing. So for me, that was like automatically like a red flag. And like I think I was always the target because like my teeth issue, I kind of learned to just be quiet and not say anything because
So
I
you
felt like
never mentioned it to anybody. You never
no,
mentioned it that he was said some inappropriate things to you.
no, because I always felt like every time I opened my mouth, I got teased or laughed at. So I kind of learned to just be quiet. And I think when that happens to you at a young age, whether it was from bullying or whatever makes you quiet or whatever makes you, shut up, it affects your entire life. So I learned to just keep everything to myself, deal with everything myself. And I'm still like that to this day.
Mm-hmm.
Not proud of it, but, you know, you know, God have a plan for all of our lives. So it made me the person I am today. Like I'm a very strong person, I would say, because of
Mm-hmm.
everything or just dealing with everything myself or keeping everything myself. I don't do that now. I try not to, but that's what I dealt with. Like if every time you open your mouth, every time you have something to say, people laugh at you, you're gonna learn to just be quiet. And predators target quiet people, you know.
Mm-hmm. So, at what point did you find your voice? When do you believe you found your voice and you knew, like, you know what, I can't be quiet anymore because of this physical impediment, cosmetic impediment? When did you find the courage to like speak up for yourself?
Um, Honestly, I feel like it was late in life. Like probably like my
What do
late
you mean
20s.
late in life? You're acting like you're 70 years
I
old or
know.
something.
But if you had an issue from third grade, I would say like late would be like in my mid 20s.
Okay.
So it was still like for me, and like even to this day, like I still battle with it, but I'm way more like yeah, aggressive or like outspoken. But I still kind of struggle with it just a little bit, but not as much anymore.
But can you remember what was that incident that you finally said, you know what, I'm gonna say something? Can
Mm,
you remember what was that trigger to say, okay, enough? I'm not gonna just let people take advantage of me or do whatever they want. I'm going to say something.
I don't think it was a particular like instance, but
Okay.
if you like anything in life, if you like experience a lot of hurt, anybody could get it. Basically, it's like a trigger. So sometimes
Okay.
somebody could do the smallest thing, and it may not be like, oh, I didn't really do nothing, and you lash out at me like this. It may not be like you did something so severe, but it's just like, you know what, I just had enough, and you just happen to be that last straw. So I would just say, like, at some point, like, just experiencing so much hurt or just holding so much in, at some point, like, through my late 20s, I would say, I just became like, I can't take anymore. That's just what it is. It's either like it's gonna destroy me. It was like choosing myself. Like, either I'm gonna let people kill me or I'm gonna stand up for myself, that kind of thing. So
Mhm.
I just got to a point, like, I chose myself. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like I literally could not take anymore. I was like, I remember just reaching like a breaking point. It wasn't like some specific occurrence,
Hmm.
but it was just like, I just can't take anymore. Like I'm tired.
Right.
And so I literally had to make a decision in my mind, like, you have to be strong. You have to choose yourself, or it's
Hmm.
gonna kill you. And
Right.
that's what I did. I chose myself.
So when you say you chose yourself, what did you start doing differently?
I started speaking up for myself. I started saying no, which was very powerful for me. Um, I like to say, when you come from a history of bullying, it kind of just transcends into your adult years and you don't realize that. So people are not like teasing you, but people are still taking advantage of you. And it's still like a form of bullying. So even to my adult years, I allowed people to just do what they wanted to do, or I kind of like chose their way, or just not knowing how to say no. Just still allowing
So,
people to
so
take
this is in like what, business relationships,
everything,
personal relationships,
all,
family relationships,
everything, all.
everything.
Yeah.
So, in other words, you really had to learn how to set up some boundaries.
Yes, I did not know boundaries. Like I remember praying to God, like to be beautiful, because in my younger years, it didn't feel beautiful. I felt like, all the bullying. I felt like, okay, I must be ugly. So I remember praying to be the woman I am today. And when I became that, it was like, gee, I am still dealing with a level of bullying. But it wasn't because I was ugly. It was now because I was beautiful or
Mhm.
just gullible or naive or nice, too nice, you know?
So when did you start saying to yourself, "I'm not ugly, I'm beautiful"? Like, when were you convinced?
Mm, I would say, honestly, I started feeling myself a little bit when I got my teeth fixed, even though it was just a temporary fix.
That's that. Oh, I was gonna say that was just like last week, but you're talking
No,
about.
not
Okay,
this fix,
okay, okay.
not this
So
one.
how old were you back then?
Like 16, 17. I
Okay,
started
that's
like
when you realize what. But I want to know, what was that thing, or what were those things that you finally came to a place where you accepted? You know what? I'm beautiful. Whether no matter what anybody else says, because everybody has to come to some kind of turning point in their own mind, because it doesn't matter what other people say to you as much as what you say to yourself. So what was that turning point when you started saying to yourself, I'm beautiful?
I mean, honestly, it's a process. So
Hmm.
to this day, I still talk to myself in the mirror. I don't want people, because when you dealt with something like your entire life, it just doesn't disappear. So it's like a lifestyle practice. So to this day, I still talk to myself. It's like forming a habit. So I can't say like it was. I can't think of a particular moment in my life, but I just can remember like me just talking to myself. And even to this day, I still talk to myself. Like before I go, sometimes I'm just like, "You're beautiful. You're a queen. Like you're deserving of this. You're deserving of that." Like I talk to myself because there are still mental battles that plague me even to this day. So I wouldn't tell somebody like it just ends once you make up your mind if you've been dealing with something for like decades or your life.
Hmm.
It's a process and you have to continuously just talk to yourself, and that's what I do. I remember like just Googling or YouTubing videos on how to be confident, how to be a lady, how to groom yourself, like things I just didn't know. And the
Hmm.
more I learned these things, the more my confidence just got higher and higher. Today is much higher than it was 10 years ago. But even to this day, I'm still like, you're beautiful. I tell myself that. Like, you're
Hmm.
confident, you're strong, you got this. Before I go out, I'm like, you're a queen, you deserve the best. And I tell myself these things. Like, literally, I have to look myself in the mirror and say
Yeah.
it.
Hmm.
It's a process, and I don't really think the process ends when you come from a history of that negativity or that mental abuse. It's like, or
Hmm.
emotional abuse. It's like you have to just keep telling yourself that.
Yeah.
I would be lying if I tell myself that some days I don't kind of fall back into that mentality sometimes, even just for a short period. But I talk myself out of it.
Hmm. Just keep yourself going. You
Yeah.
started uh, um, an organization, an NGO that like gives back.
Hmm.
So let's talk about that organization and why you started it.
So, um, every time someone asks me this, I used to be like, well, God just gave me the idea or whatever. But when I really think back, I think a seed was planted in me from when I was a child. When I go back to, like I said, we grew up in a city, and there was a Christian couple that came out, and they would have church in our community. They would like feed us like drinks. They would invite us into their home church. Like I gave my life under a almond tree in the city when I was just like 12, 13 years old because of these people. And if I really dig deep inside myself, I would say that seed was planted from I was at a young age. That I wanted to do that for other people that was in the same like position that I was in, like just not having it, just not knowing, not really having those examples. My dad, he was in jail from I was like, I don't even remember him, but I met him when I was 16. My mom, she was a single parent, she was working, so we kind of grew up by ourselves, or just grew up with my older sister. So yeah, like all I know is just how to figure out things myself. And so I think from them planting that seed and just my personal experience, if I really dig deep in myself, I would just say like I just I don't want other people to go through that. Like I have a
Hmm.
heart for it. It's just natural. I may not have been the most perfect person, but I've always been a kind-hearted person. I've always been a nice person. I've always been a giving person. I always just wanted to see better for people. I don't want to see anybody have to go through certain experiences that I went through if they don't have to. If I could like tell them about God or just give them hope or just be that example to say, I was where you was at one time.
Hmm.
Look at me, look where I'm at today. Like that's my yeah, I like it. It's really genuine. I didn't even want it to be an organization. I started out just like as a single person, just wanted to help people and wanted to be low key with it. But people saw it and like people was just pushing me into like you need to make this something, this is a good idea, this is a good thing, and I felt like I just blinked and it was an organization.
Hmm.
Like,
So, what's the name of the organization, and what is it that you do exactly?
the organization is We Life Foundation, and that stands for We Live in Freedom Everlasting. And so my idea was to bring total freedom to persons living in inner city communities, and that means mental, spiritual, emotional, physical, all aspects of life, because that's what I had to go through to be the person I am today. And I realized like it takes more than just giving somebody something to eat. It's
Hmm.
like it's mental, it's emotional, it's spiritual. It's a lot that goes into transitioning into
Catering to the whole man.
the whole man because I went through that. It took more than I'm grateful, but it took more than me just getting something to eat. I had to deal with my mind, deal with my spirit, I had to deal with my emotions, and that's something that I wanted to offer to other people. Like there's hope. Like where you start ain't where you're gonna finish. Like I was here a couple years ago. I got out. I'm trying. Not perfect, but I made strides from where I started to where I am today, and it's something to be proud of. And so that's why I did it, and that's what I wanted to give to other young people, especially women or single parent mothers who went through what we went through growing up.
Hmm. So, you mentioned that from you were a child till 16, your dad was incarcerated.
Hmm.
What impact, if any, do you believe that had on you as a young woman?
Well, um, because I never experienced it, I could only assume that if I did have that father figure, that things may have been different. But just thinking about it, I just feel like I didn't have an example. I didn't have anything to follow. I didn't have that, you know, uh, father, mother, husband, wife kind of example. Like I said, my mom, she was working to deal with five of us at the time, so I don't put nothing on her. And he wasn't there, so the only option was is just to try and figure out life for yourself. So I made a lot of mistakes because I don't know. Nobody told me anything. I don't know what to look out for in men. I don't know how to carry myself as a young lady. I don't know. I just go on by what I see or what I'm around. So I kind of grew up in my adolescent years or teenage years, whatever. Rough. All I know is just like just have to make it and I trying to figure things out. So I learn from my mistakes.
Oh, so we just lost her. But if you're just joining us, so we were talking to Shavonne Strawn, who has had such a journey, of course, with her life and the drug overdose and how that has impacted her life and just trying to find a way. She said she was a rebellious child and really just trying to figure out life, not unlike many of us who just try to figure out, like, how do we do this thing called life if nobody shows us how to do it? For those who may have grown up in a single parent home with just a mother, as she did, with no male figures around, then there was nobody to really tell you what you should look for in a man, or what is a quote unquote good man or anything like that. And so she literally just had to do it and learn as she went by and kind of figure it out. And that sounds like a common story to me for many young women and men out there who don't have father figures around, and somebody really playing that role in a mentorship role to tell them what is acceptable and what is not. And I believe that in life, so many things, we could spare people so many things if we would take the time to share and to let them know what is acceptable and what is not. And people won't have to experiment as much as they do, just out of a need to try to find out, or try to fit in, or anything like that. And so I believe that is really common. I mean, I hear stories all the time about people who got into various things, whether it was drugs, whether it was alcohol, whether it was bad relationships, just because they really didn't have a mirror, a mentor, a map in terms of, or somebody telling them what to look out for, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. And especially when it comes to being, I would say, not just a young person, but when it comes to the church exclusively, and being a young Christian, and you're told day to day, um, of course, you're not supposed to fornicate as a single person. And so most young people, a lot of them see as a way out to get married, really just to have sex. And that's where they go wrong immediately, because that was the sole purpose in many instances of being married, just so they wouldn't be committing fornication. But they didn't have anybody to sit down and tell them anything else otherwise. And because of that, they get married, and ultimately the marriages don't last because it wasn't built on a firm foundation. And no matter what they tried to do to hold it together, it just did not succeed. So Siobhan is back. Okay, here you go. Great.
Yeah.
So I was just talking about how you grew up, being in a single mother's home with nobody really telling you what's acceptable, what's not. So you're experimenting and just trying to figure out what to do, what not to do, and that is just so common. And then I was talking about, especially when you're a young Christian, and how a lot of people just get married as youngsters in the church just because they want to have sex and they don't want to commit fornication. So
Mhm.
they just go ahead and get married. And because the foundation isn't solid, the marriages, more likely than not, do not work.
Mhm.
They just don't work, and
Yeah.
they end up still in dysfunctional relationships because they have not learned what it is to have a healthy relationship, because they've not seen any real examples around them, and so they're just figuring it out as they go along. But you were talking about perhaps what would happen, but
Mhm.
I wanted, like, if your dad was around or something like that, and at best that's all you can do is speculate. But what I want to ask you is, now as an adult, first of all, do you have a relationship as an adult with your father if he's still alive?
Mhm. We do have a relationship, but it's not like I guess like it's like a friendship.
Okay.
Yeah. It's very difficult, I guess, to like, have that like, affection and things like that when you didn't grow up with it. So it's kind of weird. And like I tell people,
Hmm.
I don't hold anything against anybody. I understand everything, but I can't force anything at the same time. So it's like
Right.
I'm gonna, like be sitting on daddy's lap and be like, this happened to me today kind of thing. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's just, it is what it is. But, we do have a relationship, but it's not like the typical, yeah, father daughter.
It can't be a typical. I mean,
Yeah,
like you literally just kind of like met him at
yeah,
16. So,
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, we understand that, but I as in any relationship,
Hmm.
it takes effort.
Yeah, it
And,
takes, it
and I
takes.
think that's the real point.
Hmm.
Um, if the only way you're gonna have a relationship with anybody is if you spend time with them and get to know them and be your authentic self.
Hmm.
Because we have a tendency when we meet people, and I mean everybody is cautious.
Hmm.
That's natural. When you meet someone for the first time, you're cautious, and you only want to show them the best of who you are, and you only want to tell them all the wonderful things that has happened to you. But I've lived long enough to understand that if you want to have a meaningful relationship, then you have to get beyond the surface
Hmm.
of the pretty stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
The things that the glittering and look golden and all that kind of stuff, and to really begin to build relationships, and that takes time and that takes a lot of work.
True.
And I know myself because I've had relationships in my family where I literally had to work because we didn't grow up together or whatever. So I literally had to build relationships.
Mhm.
And it took a lot of work. And sometimes I was frustrated and fed up and all that kind of stuff. But I recognized that if I wanted this to work,
Mhm.
then I needed to be the one to put in the effort, even though sometimes you're thinking, well, they should be doing this and they could do that. And
Yeah.
like, I'm sure you say, well, he's the
Yeah.
father, he should, yeah. So talk about how do you balance that and just come to a place of acceptance. He is who he is. I am who I am. How do you, or have you found that balance yet?
Um, it's a tough question because, like, he's still very, present. I, I don't know. I don't think I found the balance yet, to be honest. It's something I'm still navigating. Like I said, it's hard. I want to, but it's just, it just doesn't feel natural. And I don't really know what to do. Like, I can't force feelings to exist that doesn't exist. But I want them to. But it's just like sometimes I feel like, the Bible say bend the tree when it's young. And I feel like I'm a full grown tree. And so it's hard to kind of get me back to being that like a girl, a little girl, because then like I'm not, and I can't go back, and I'm already in my ways. I am who I
Hmm.
am, so it's hard to like go backwards to to that foundation. But it's like I don't hold anything against you. I don't have any negative emotions. It's just I don't feel that feeling that
Hmm.
that I think would
Um,
be there if you grew up with your parent in your life. I don't know if that makes sense.
that's necessarily speak. Some people that have been in two parent homes and they still don't have that touchy kind of
Hmm.
relationship at all.
Yeah.
Um, it takes work, and at best, I think at best, you said it. You said your friends. He
Hmm.
can't parent you now.
Hmm. No.
You're an adult,
Yeah.
so at best, no. At best, you what you can do is build a strong friendship, a
Hmm.
relationship now where again you understand, like you say, you sat in your ways. So what you think about him?
Yeah.
Okay,
I get it. I
right?
get it.
So
Yeah.
at best, all you could do is meet on mutual grounds of understanding and common ground, and have no expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Have no expectations. Just meet where you can meet on the middle of the road. Just agree where you can agree, and build a relationship that way, because you're not going to get back the last 30 years or whatever that was. That's not going to happen.
No.
Um, and so at best, just build the kind of relationship right now while he's around, until that's all. So you don't put your pressure on yourself of trying to be, close to somebody, because you're saying you can't. No, you can't force it. So you
No.
have to approach it. I'm an adult. He's
Mm-hmm.
an adult. You can be friends. That is possible. Putting in the effort, doing things that both of you enjoy, mutually finding out if you don't
Mm-hmm.
know, like, what do you enjoy, and then go do something like that to, just to, I think at this
Yeah.
stage now, it's just about creating moments,
Yeah, I
about
need to
creating.
work on that because we're actually a lot alike. Like I have a lot of my talents come from him. I realize that.
So you see, that is a
Yeah.
place to start, and build on the things that you have in common, rather than thinking about what didn't happen, what coulda,
Mm-hmm.
what shoulda, what woulda, because yeah, that's just not something that you can't capture it, because it just doesn't exist. So as you move along, do you think, this is another personal question, do you think that has affected your relationships with men in any way?
Um. Yeah. Like when I took some time not too long ago to really think about it. I'm trying to say it in a very nice way, but it's like a lot of the things that I guess kind of, you know, went down with my father and my mom. I realized like I was kind of attracted to that in my past relationships, and it
Mm,
wasn't good.
okay.
And so, like, having a few sit downs and things, I realized, like, wow,
You
like
see
I'm
a
a,
pattern, you see a
yeah,
cycle.
I saw the part, and so it was a good. It was like it was sad, but then it was still like of a good thing for me to realize
Yeah,
because I realized, like, okay, this is something that I need to curve or something I need to work on. Yeah. So sometimes we really don't
yeah,
realize that some of our toxic traits that stem from things we experienced in life or things we didn't experience in life. And
hmm,
I literally saw it clear as day when I had a sit down and I was like, wow, like I have
yeah.
some toxic
And
traits.
that's a good thing. I mean,
Yeah,
that's a
I
wonderful
saw
place
it.
to be.
I saw it. Yeah, I did. And it was sad. It was really sad when I realized it, but it helped me at the same time to make better decisions. So yeah.
Mhm. So, with that said, then, what are you looking for in a partner? Have you thought about that?
I have. Um, I definitely don't want to experience what I have experienced. I realize I have this deep fear of being a single parent mother. So I don't have any
Hmm.
kids, and sometimes I feel like I don't want kids, but I realize that fear just stems from watching what my mother went through and a lot of other females in my family. It's like a cycle, and so
Don't
I'm
want to
just,
be left alone parenting a
yeah, I
child
have
by
a fear of
yourself. Yeah.
abandonment, and just abandonment is a serious thing, a fear I have. And so I just really need like a very supportive partner and somebody that's strong because I'm a strong person, but I don't want to bully my husband, ultimately. But that's all I know. So I kind of need someone to help me to be a little bit more feminine or softer.
Okay,
Or
so hold on. You said you don't want to bully your husband, so you're telling me
no,
that the person who was bullied has become a bully?
definitely, yeah,
Wow. Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
It just, yeah, like it's not in not in like the kind of way I was bullied, but more in a way like I'm gonna stand up for myself. I'm not gonna just
So it's
accept
like a
anything.
defense mechanism.
Yeah, it's
Like,
like my defense. It's like my shield. It's like I protect myself now. So you can't just tell me anything. You can't just do anything to me. You can be weak
mhm,
because all I know is just how to be strong and how to protect myself. But ultimately, I would love to relax and let my
yeah,
guards down and have somebody to lean on and to just be that strength and that support for me.
hmm,
But I never had it, so I don't know how to do it. So most of the time, if I meet someone, if they're not that, I would be kind of, operating like in a masculine kind of energy, like just as a defense. It sounds bad,
I
but that,
understand what you mean.
yeah, like that's just my defense. It's like, yeah, I could get, maybe too strong. Yeah, I don't know how to explain it like
It's a
that.
work in progress. It's a work in
It,
progress.
it,
But
it, it is. So
you need
ultimately,
somebody that's
I do
supportive.
need that very manly man, somebody that I could feel safe with, that reassurance. I need that because I'm scared. And ultimately, it's just because I'm afraid. But if I feel like if I meet someone that makes me feel safe and that makes me feel like they're there for me and they won't leave me and things like that, I would definitely be more vulnerable.
Hmm.
But I'm afraid to be vulnerable because I've seen a part in my
Sure,
family. So
sure, sure.
it's scary.
Yeah, perfectly normal that people would be have their guards up.
Hmm.
And you just don't know what you're gonna get, really.
Yeah.
But I think the thing is to remain open because if you entered it closed, then nothing can come in if you closed. You
Yeah.
know, nothing can come in.
I am a work in progress. Like I said,
Yeah,
I would be lying if I said I
as
have
we
it all
all are.
together.
Yeah. Oh, as we all are, works in progress. So we talked about um, your dad. We talked about your experiments with drugs, or your years actually was an experiment. Using drugs and inappropriate behavior from somebody older in church. We talked about your organization and what you're doing to help inner city people. What else? What else does Siobhan see like for you? What do you envision for your life?
I mean, honestly, like I still feel like I'm rebellious in a sense, but not in the negative aspect. I don't really believe in like following the book per se, like the way everybody does things. I still believe that I am a leader. I feel like I have a story that it's gonna help and affect a lot of people, but I'm not gonna do it, by the book per se, like the religious kind of way, because I just believe in being as honest as I can be and being myself. And
Hmm.
like I said, like we both would be sitting here lying if we said that our life is so perfect and like we have it all together. But I do want to share my story. I do want to help people like what I'm doing now in the community by just being like transparent, by just, having sit downs like this with you, just sharing my story, sharing my journey, and just like letting people know like there is hope.
Yeah.
And not only that, I see myself as an entrepreneur. I started a business during the pandemic, which went really well, my clothing business. I started a loungewear business during the pandemic, and I still think like I have ultimately, even though I still have my 9 to 5, I desire to be free from that ultimately, to just kind of impact the world, change the world, do my own thing, start my own business. Like I said, I wouldn't take back my journey for nothing in the world because I'm still rebellious in the senses, and I'm not gonna just go by the you go to school, get a degree, get a job, you get married, have kids, well, that's the end of your life.
Hmm.
I don't believe in that.
You just
I
how you want to go against the grain, like they
Yeah,
say, disturb the status quo.
uh,
Just kind of carve your own way and find your
yeah,
niche. And I think
yeah,
ultimately that's what most people desire to do when they recognize I am more than 9 to 5, whatever that means for them.
mhm,
And But that takes time and process when you think
Right.
I got bills to pay, I got kids to take care of. I think it's kind of easier, honestly, for people like you or me who don't have kids. Um, I think, and I may be wrong, but our minds are more open to
Yeah.
explore possibilities because we're not thinking about the children, ultimately, especially for a single mother or even a married mother for that fact, because those are things, they a little that they constantly think about providing for and doing things like that. If you had an opportunity to go anywhere in the world that you have not yet been, where would that be?
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind, I don't know why, but it's Africa.
Okay. I mean, why Africa?
I would say like I just always felt like I was, just kind of connected to nature and just like the natural environment. Like I like my hair and my locks. I always been into like poetry and spoken word, and I learned how to play the guitar myself. I just always been into like natural environments and just like my roots. And that's something I never really, I don't know why I'm connected to it, but I would like to find out. And so I like animals and just nature and just like
Let's go
everything
live out, go on
that.
a safari and live out in the wild and
Yeah,
do something.
I
Yeah.
would. Like, I just like,
Go to the motherland.
yeah, I like things that haven't been, kind of just destroyed by the world, what it is today. I like things in its natural state. That's what I'm mostly connected to. I don't know why, but it makes me feel at peace, I guess. I don't know.
Okay, so we're talking about being connected to, the world, its natural state.
Hmm.
If you could create the world, or you could create your own world. Let me say don't,
Hmm.
because the creation is done. Finito. If you could create your own space, like what would be the ideal space like for Shavonne right now? Like when, okay, or in other words, when will Shavonne know that she is fulfilled?
Um, I think when I release fear of everything that I've ever known or ever been taught, like I think most of my fear just stems from religion and principles that I've known from parents or people that I've met along the way. But all the time, I always feel like there's something tugging inside of me that wants to be free, that just wants to be free from judgment, from opinions of people. And I feel like once I get free from that, like I will be my true self, like my authentic self. Like I feel like most of us are the way that we are because of things that people taught us, things that we learned. But most of the time, we have this thing in us that just like wants to be free, but we scared of it because we think like it's wrong or it's a sin or we're gonna get in trouble or I don't know, whatever, or it's just not. It doesn't line up with what they tell us.
Mhm.
What the world tells us, like we have to. Honestly, I never even wanted to go to college and things like that. Like I just never felt it in my spirit, like for who I am. But I just did it because I felt like this is what the world tells me supposed to do: A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and that's how our life's supposed to go. And I just, I don't believe in that. I just,
So if you get rid of the fears that you have,
hmm,
you believe you will be fulfilled.
yes, I will be free. Um, I will be okay knowing that I'm not perfect, that I'm gonna make mistakes. What really holds me back is the judgment that comes along with religion, specifically. Like the moment you get up on that pedestal or whatever, or people put you on that pedestal per se, and you make a mistake, they crucify you. They kind of like, oh, she's supposed to be. She talk about God and she just did that.
Hmm.
And it's like, but we all mess up. We all make mistakes. We are not perfect, and that that's what hold me back mostly from sharing my truth and sharing my wisdom, is that I want to share it as myself without people being like,
Passing judgment.
yeah, like, oh, she's supposed to be a Christian, and I saw her, she had a drink, or she had sex, or she did something, whatever the case may be. It's not intentional, but it's like, we're humans. We're gonna do we're gonna mess up somewhere along the line.
Hmm.
And that's the reality that I've accepted. And I'm okay with it personally. But I think I have this fear of being bullied again.
You know what? I think when the focus is on when you wake up tomorrow and the day after that and the day after that, is the decision that I'm about to make or the thing that I'm about to do, is that going to please God? If you focus your mind on pleasing God rather than worrying about what people think, you see what I'm saying? You
Hmm.
take the pressure off of yourself when the focus is only about, okay, God, is this a good move? And making that a constant in your mind rather than what somebody is going to think, because that's the same mortal just like you who making mistakes. They just may not be visible to you, but they doing something anyway. And so I'm saying that to you because honestly that's how I try to frame my mind. Like, I wonder if like some days I wake up and say, okay, let me see how I can make God smile. That's my common phrase. How do I make God smile? Some days I hit it, some days I don't.
Right.
But it's so not about what people think,
Mhm.
because that part right there, like I'm so over that. I am so over
I'm
what
trying to
people.
get there. I'm
Yeah,
almost there. I'm not there yet.
yeah, you have to, because when you put it in perspective, like the old people used to say, they don't have a heaven or a hell to put you in. It's not about them. They grappling, wrestling with their own issues, because you may be a more public person or more open person. Yours may just appear, but you have no clue what they're doing behind closed doors, and they will stick their head up to say something about you and go right back into their little corner and continue to do whatever. And that's why it has to be about, how do I live my life to the best of my ability to please God, whatever that means. And that's where that relationship with you and him, the vertical, kind of just kind of eliminates the horizontal when it comes to what people think. I fight, and it's a fight.
Hmm.
It's a fight to stay focused on just doing what you do to please God, because when you start getting all the other variables in, it'll stop you in your
Yes,
tracks.
we will.
It'll cripple you, and you will never, I repeat, never become all that God, back to him, intended you to be.
Yeah, really.
Every thought, every idea, every gift, every talent comes from him. These people don't know. They ain't give you nothing. They didn't give you anything. When you have great ideas, that's God who inspires you to do that, right?
Mhm.
So it only makes sense that what I do, I should inspire or aspire to please him. We get so caught up in these, oh, seriously, man.
Really, it's a process to get out of that mentality. It is.
You have to fight. You have to
Yeah.
fight every day. Focus in. When they talking about tunnel vision, the tunnel vision is how can I please God with what I do?
I guess it's like it's such a battle for me. Like I said, because I come from a history of just people bullying me, so it's like I would say I almost struggle with perfectionism in a way. And I know like nothing is ever perfect or the ideal situation, but it's like yeah, I still have that slight fear of being bullied, but in a different way. Like people just not accepting or just just because you're different, and I know I'm different. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna look like you. I'm not gonna dress like you. I'm not gonna talk like you. I'm just gonna be Shavonne, and
yeah,
that's the like Shavonne is the only person I'm comfortable being. I cannot, no offense to anybody, but I cannot be like in the white collar and the all of these things and stuff like that. I just have to be myself, and I know
right.
that's who God is calling me to be. Is just being me. Like this is who I am. This is how I talk. This is how I dress. But I know where my heart is, and I know this in my core, but I'm still struggling with it to,
Yeah.
just
Stay
be that
focused. Be
person.
intentional.
Yeah.
Be intentional, like I said, about how do I please God? If you keep that question at the fore of your mind, then even when you mess up, you already know I have to go back to Him
Hmm.
because I didn't please Him with that action, not what somebody thinks about what I did, but the fact that I didn't please Him. I'm telling you, it'll save you a lifetime. It'll save you a lifetime of pressure, unnecessary pressure that you put upon yourself when you focus in on what other people think about. And here's the thing, and you know this, but that's why I'm telling you this is where you need to focus. You're only called to a certain group of people anyway.
Yeah. Honestly, I am. I know that. Yeah.
You're only called to a certain group of people, so anybody else that rejects you, you're not called to them. And that's okay. But you
Yeah.
have to tell yourself that's okay. Because, see, you can't be trying to win everybody because everybody is never. I mean, just ask Jesus. I mean, he came to the world for everybody, right? He came for everyone, but did everybody and has everyone accepted what he came to do? No. But the Bible says, to as many as received him, whoever wants to receive him, that's the ones he give the power to become his sons. And so when you think about it like that, listen, I ain't called to everybody. Everybody's not going to like the way I look, speak, what I do, what I'm attracted to. You say you like nature and doing. Everybody ain't into that. And that's okay. You see what I mean? It's okay. So just do you and focus in on whether doing me pleases God. Period. If doing me pleases God, and other people aspire to do the same thing, then whoever your tribe is, whoever those people that you're called to serve, they're going to come because they're going to be attracted to what it is that you do. Shoot, I can't be nobody else. You look
Yeah.
at me, different phases. For 20 years, I had locks. I had locks down to my butt. I cut my locks in 2018. Cut it off to this. I had locks for 20 years. And I decided in 2018, you know what? Yeah, I'm done. I'm going to try something different. But it took me 18. Wait, hold on. I had locks for 20 years. So from 2000 to 20. Yeah. Anyway, it was 98. Yeah, 98 to 2018. 20
Wow.
solid years. In 98, I decided, you know what? I don't want to perm my hair anymore. It wasn't real popular. And to top it off, just testifying a little bit. So I was working full time in the church in ministry, and I decided I want locks. Yeah, a lot of people were happy about that, but
Hmm.
again, I didn't care because my focus. I didn't think about pleasing God. Then it was like, At that point, I was on a journey of self discovery, trying to come back to myself, to nature, understanding me.
Mhm.
And I didn't want to have perm in my hair anymore. So I stopped perming my hair and I started doing locks. And it wasn't popular back then. That wasn't a regular thing, you understand? But hey, they got over it.
Mhm.
People used to call me Sealy, all kinds of, yeah, like from the color purple. It was crazy. I used
Oh.
to get all kinds. You talk about bullying, like as an adult. People used to be talking about my nappy hair and what am I doing and all like,
Uh,
you see? And who didn't accept it? No, you just ain't my tribe. That's
mhm.
no. And so these different phases of your life, you begin to understand, especially as you draw closer to God and seriously focusing in on it. I want my life to have meaning, and I want to be able to do the things that are going to impact the people that I'm called to serve.
Yeah.
That's all I care about. That's all I care about. When you zero in on that, it's so all about God. I see some comments coming. Let me see what. All right.
Oh.
Couple of comments. People just saying courage, God bless. Amen. Live to please God alone. Deb says it definitely will. You can never please everybody. Ioka says exactly. It doesn't define who you are. I love it though. I'm not sure what she's referring to, but yeah, the whole point is, girl, listen, you're well on your way as to becoming. You know, the aspiration is to leave the world empty and to do all that's in your power to do by the inspiration of the Holy Spirit. That's the aspiration. Focus on doing all that is. And sometimes I might miss the mark, but I'm not going to stay worrying about the fact that I missed the mark. I get back up and I keep it going because I want to please God. Once you begin to obliterate, not just eliminate, obliterate the thoughts of how people are going to respond. Because let's say tomorrow you decide you want to make your hair purple.
Mhm.
That's your business. Everybody ain't gonna like the purple hair,
Yeah.
but you want purple hair. So some
Yeah.
people may stop following you or whatever because your hair is purple. Well, they ain't called to somebody with purple hair. Somebody else will come along and say, "Oh, that's cool. I like the purple hair."
Mhm. Yeah.
You see, so there's always someone that whatever, whoever you're serving, they'll find you and be comfortable with whatever you present to them. And they'll want to be a part of whatever you do because you're doing it with a good and a pure heart,
Mhm.
and a pure spirit. So if you could get over that
I will
fear
take.
of,
Yeah.
yeah, it's shifting your mindset, shifting your mindset, taking that mindset off of the bullies and they may not like, taking it off there too. This is what pleases God, or I want to please God, and focusing on that. Deborah says, Shavonne, you are on the right track. You are inspiring others. Continue doing what you are doing. Continue doing what you're doing. Oh, Naoka, you talk about my locks. I loved my locks too. I loved my locks, but
I
I
love
just
my.
came. Yeah, I absolutely loved my locks, but I just came to a point where I wanted to change, and so that's what I did. So hey, like I've never worn a wig, right? So now that my hair, this is crazy and so off topic, but now that my hair is low, I'm thinking like maybe I should try putting on a wig. But I'm like, oh no,
I
So it's a
like the natural.
crazy thing, man.
I like
And
natural
some
look.
people would totally
But
hate it. And just the thought of me saying it, I will probably hate it. Naoka says,
I
you have a
feel the
beautiful
same
smile. But
way.
Siobhan,
Like,
listen, we could talk all night.
yeah.
We're at the 9:30 mark right now. I want to thank you guys for hanging with us tonight, whoever hung around. Um, you're so on the right track, like Deb said, to being your authentic self. and to not being concerned about what others are saying unless these are people that are contributing to your growth and development. Those are the only people that you should be mindful of. People who
That's
are
true.
contributing
Yeah.
to, you hear what I say? Your growth and development. The people who are contributing.
That's what I
Otherwise,
want. 'Cause I had people in church who literally told me like they wanted me with weave and they just wanted me like to be like a certain kind of way, like wear a certain kind of clothes, have my hair a certain way, be a certain kind of way, and I was like, it's not me.
right.
And it's a story in the Bible too with David when they wanted him to put on this armor to fight Goliath, and he couldn't do it with all this stuff
But
on. And
Saul gave him his
yeah,
armor.
yeah, and I feel it all the time. Like y'all trying to put all this stuff on me, and I don't feel like I need all that. Like I need to be myself. I need to be free. I need to be comfortable because that's the only way I can be able to function. And with that, I have this fear still of I know I don't look it, and I don't sound it, and I don't have the typical you know churchy kind of thing, but this is me, and I feel like this is how I can fight. This is how I feel comfortable. This is how I win my fights, and I know from experience this is how I win my fights. So this is the way I need to fight. I don't need you to tell me I need to be like this. I need to sound. I need to wear this. I need to look like this. I need to have my hair with weave. I need to be all prim and proper. Like I call to certain people, and they need me to look like this, sound like this, relate to them certain kind of ways, and that's what I believe. And I in total agreement with you. If I could just get over that, I would feel free and feel like I really operate in my true potential, just being myself and being okay with that.
We're going to work on it because you got to be free. There are people literally waiting for Shavonne,
Yeah.
literally waiting for you. And you have to get out of your own way. Terusha
Yeah.
says, keep being transparent, then you win every time. Blessing, just keep being transparent. Nayoka says, knowing who you are, plays an important part. Yeah, yeah, we you got to do it. People waiting for Siobhan to manifest, to be all that God has called you to be, and to do everything that He's put in your heart to do.
Yeah.
This
That's
show
so
that
bad.
I'm doing right now, you know how many people ask me, Miranda, why are you doing this? You don't even get paid for this. You should have ads and you should get sponsors and all that kind of stuff. And I've been doing this now, excuse me, it's going on 2 years.
Wow.
But that was not the original intent. You see what I'm saying? I know what God told me to do. That's not the assignment. I know how to get sponsors and ads and all that kind of stuff. I come from a media background. If that was the intent of the show, I'd have ads flying all over the screen every week. But that's really not the intent. And you just have to be true to your assignment, whatever that is that God has given you to do. And you're going to be fine. And we going to work on that, honey. Child, you got to get them people out your way for real, so that you could really push forward in being and doing everything that God has placed. Because the last thing you want to do, they say the cemetery is the richest place in the world. Child,
Mm-hmm.
please. Ain't gonna be rich because of me.
Honestly.
Ain't gonna be rich because of me, because my intent for sure is to die empty. But once again, guys, spread your wings. She says, spread your wings and fly. So that's a good note to end on. Thank you, beautiful. Thank you for swerving with me tonight, for opening up and sharing a bit of your story. There's so much more that we could talk about. But thank you so much for opening up and sharing your story, and as you go through the process of becoming, and we all go through the process of becoming all that God has called us to be. It is a journey indeed
Yeah. It
of
is.
self discovery, self awareness, self acceptance. It's a journey. And thanks, Deb. She had another great show. It's a journey, and we have to do it together. We We have to do it together because if I could help Shavonne grow and push, then I get a little step further, and hopefully somebody will come along at a time when I need it and help me,
Hmm.
and so on and so on. And if we are able to embrace that, and I thank you. I have a dear friend, Jerusha, on here. She helps me to push on some days when I'm like, girl, I don't even feel like whatever. She
Yeah.
reminds me. And when you have people like that in your life, you cannot take it for granted.
Mhm.
But remember, Siobhan, the focus is when you wake up tomorrow, what can I do to please God? And is what I'm doing today pleasing God? If it's not going to please God, drop it.
Yeah.
Drop it. And if it's going to please Him, go for it, whatever it takes, but you're going to get it done. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in and hanging with us. Accountability, great. Have a good night. I'll see you guys again next week on Swerve with me. Bye, everybody.